The MMA world thrives on surprise, speculation, and sudden revelations, and in the run-up to UFC 319, few revelations have hit harder than Arman Tsarukyan's unexpected disclosure regarding Khamzat Chimaev's secret training prep. While has been laser-focused on his own career trajectory, his connection to Chimaev and, more importantly, to Islam Makachev has suddenly placed him at the center of the sport's most intriguing narrative, with Islam kicking off his most anticipated training camp and Khamzat quietly preparing for his next octagon appearance. The interwoven stories of three dominant fighters have electrified the fan base. Tsarukyan has always been calculated, unafraid to speak blunt truths or stir the waters of the lightweight division, but no one quite expected him to lift the curtain on Chimaev's behind-the-scenes regimen, especially not with such a potent mix of admiration and apprehension. As he stood before cameras, offering insight into Chimaev's off-the-grid preparation, it was clear he wasn't just hyping a potential fight, he was setting the stage for a reckoning. And as soon as Tsarukyan dropped the bombshell, fans knew something huge was brewing. According to Tsarukyan, Chimaev has been engaged in a training protocol that could best be described as borderline militaristic. He's not just working on his wrestling or striking anymore, Tsarukyan revealed. He's rebuilding everything: footwork, timing, pressure, control. His team is keeping everything under wraps. No Instagram, no media. It's very Dagestani of him, very old school. He's turning into a phantom. This kind of silence has only amplified the aura around Chimaev. After a tumultuous year marked by health concerns, canceled bouts, and media silence, many assumed Chimaev was spiraling. But Tsarukyan's disclosure painted a very different picture. One of a methodical, cold-blooded assassin ready to redefine his path to UFC gold. And if Tsarukyan's account is accurate, Khamzat is doing so in a way that mirrors the ascetic discipline of Khabib Nurmagomedov at his peak. Meanwhile, Islam Makachev, Khabib's protege and reigning lightweight champion, has officially commenced his training camp, likely in anticipation of a fall title defense. His camp, held as always in the mountains of Dagestan, has drawn in several rising fighters, including the likes of Umar Nurmagomedov and Usman Nurmagomedov. But the timing of Makachev's camp launch is what adds fuel to the speculative fire. With Khamzat prepping in near isolation and Islam entering his own camp, some fans wonder if the UFC is quietly orchestrating a long-awaited crossover, a Chimaev versus Makachev super fight. While that may still be a distant dream, so candid remarks suggest something major is in play. I wouldn't be surprised if Khamzat's next fight shocks everyone, he added. People keep trying to figure out who he's going to face, but maybe we're looking in the wrong direction. Maybe we're not supposed to see it coming. That comment ignited a firestorm of speculation. Could Khamzat return not at middleweight or welterweight, but somehow squeeze into a 165-pound catchweight division for a one-off showdown? Could the UFC be building a secret card with mega-fight implications? Fans scrambled for clues, dissecting training footage, examining Twitter likes, even tracing fighter travel itineraries. Adding more intrigue is Tsarukyan's own role in this developing saga. Once a prospect and now a serious contender at lightweight, he's one of the few fighters with training exposure to both Chimaev and Makachev. His fighting style, rooted in relentless pressure and crisp grappling transitions, mirrors the core philosophies of both men. And unlike many in the division, Tsarukyan doesn't fear either of them. They're both killers, he said, but nobody's invincible, especially not if you learn their rhythm. For Tsarukyan, these revelations may also be strategic. With the UFC matchmaking machine in full swing, a well-timed leak can stir the waters and position a fighter for marquee opportunities. Tsarukyan may be angling for a high-stakes matchup, perhaps even with the returning Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira, but his references to Chimaev and Islam subtly elevate his own name. In the MMA world, narratives are currency, and Tsarukyan just cashed in. Meanwhile, Makachev's training camp appears to be a masterclass in routine and brutality. Videos leaked from Dagestan show Makachev running steep inclines at dawn, drilling grappling sequences in Spartan gyms, and meditating beside icy mountain streams. It's clear the lightweight king isn't preparing for just another fight. He's preparing for war. His coach, Javier Mendez, has hinted at a legacy-defining opponent, though he's remained tight-lipped on the details. Chimaev, however, remains in the shadows. No sparring footage, no quotes, no declarations. His Instagram is dormant. His coach is silent. But if Tsarukyan's account is accurate, then Chimaev is more dangerous now than ever, precisely because no one knows what he's planning. He's not injured. He's not distracted. He's in exile. And when he returns, it's going to be chaos. Tsarukyan said, "This eerie calm before the storm has gripped fans. Speculative fight cards circulate daily. Forums debate the implications of a Chimaev versus Leon Edwards rematch, a potential showdown with Sean Strickland, or even a long-shot bout against Makachev. But one thing is clear. The landscape is shifting, and Tsarukyan's comments have made sure no one is comfortable. The UFC's decision to hold back on announcing Chimaev's next fight now seems tactical rather than accidental. With stoking the fire and Islam ramping up intensity, UFC 319 has become the gravitational center of fan speculation. If the card's official details remain scarce, and should the rumors prove true, and Chimaev storms back with the fury of a re-engineered monster, we may be entering a new golden era of MMA 1, defined by stealth, shock, and savage evolution. Absolutely. Here's part 2 of the long-form article, titled, Arman Tsarukyan reveals Khamzat Chimaev's secret UFC 319 prep as Islam starts his training camp. What made Tsarukyan's comments even more captivating was how effortlessly he transitioned from discussing his own preparation to revealing what he'd seen from Khamzat Chimaev behind the scenes. While Tsarukyan is laser-focused on his own title aspirations, he's also an observer of those who pose a threat to the division. And Chimaev, despite the chaos surrounding his recent health rumors and inconsistent activity, still looms like a storm on the lightweight and welterweight horizons. According to Tsarukyan, Chimaev's preparations for UFC 319 have taken on a tone of silence, mystery, and controlled aggression that many in the community haven't witnessed before. Tsarukyan didn't go into full disclosure, but his words hinted at a darker, more methodical version of the Chechen-born fighter. Someone whose training is no longer just about physical dominance, but rather about tempering chaos into something calculated. It's different now with Khamzat, Tsarukyan admitted. He's not just wild and reckless anymore. There's a discipline there. He's training like a guy who's been humbled, like someone who knows what's at stake. Those comments sent a ripple through the MMA world. For fans and analysts who have often marveled at Chimaev's raw athleticism but criticized his cardio or emotional volatility, the thought of a more mature, focused version of Boers is both fascinating and intimidating. Could this be the version of Chimaev that finally lives up to the title hype without any of the unpredictability that's dogged him? Tsarukyan didn't stop there. He shared how Chimaev's camp was reportedly keeping things extremely private, avoiding the usual flood of Instagram clips and TikTok workout montages. There are no cameras, he said, just grind. No jokes, no distractions. I heard they even moved parts of the camp to remote locations just to stay off the grid. If true, this would signal a radical shift in Chimaev's effort to control the narrative, not with flashy content, but with results inside the octagon. For a fighter often seen as emotionally reactive, this version of Chimaev seems to be playing chess instead of street brawling. Meanwhile, the revelation about Islam Makachev's training camp beginning to take shape sparked intrigue of its own. While Makachev has been relatively quiet since his last title defense, there have been mounting questions over who his next challenger might be. The timing of Tsarukyan's remarks couldn't be more intriguing. Makachev's team, led by Khabib Nurmagomedov and coach Javier Mendez, has maintained a cloak of silence. But insiders have noted that training partners are being flown into Dagestan from all over the world, including high-level wrestlers from Kazakhstan, strikers from Europe, and several former Sambo champions. These are not preparations for a tune-up fight. These are signals of an elite camp preparing for a war. Islam is a machine, Tsarukyan said. You don't see the work he does. You only feel it when you face him. I've been there, and it's unlike anything else. This kind of statement, especially coming from a man who once gave Islam one of his toughest UFC fights, carries weight. Tsarukyan's admiration for Makachev's craft is clear, but so is his hunger to test himself against that elite again. What makes this tangled web of narratives so gripping is that it places Tsarukyan, Chimaev, and Makachev on a collision course, each man pushing toward legacy-defining fights, each man surrounded by the aura of greatness, and each man carrying secrets from their camps that the others are desperate to decode. MMA fans began theorizing what Tsarukyan's casual revelations might mean. Was he sending a warning to other contenders? Was he lobbying to get closer to another crack at the title by showing how plugged in he is? Or was he genuinely giving credit to his fellow warriors while planting seeds for future rivalries? Some suggested that Tsarukyan's comments about Chimaev's tempered chaos might be his way of preparing the public for a blockbuster showdown. possibly even suggesting that UFC 319 isn't just about Chimaev fighting another contender, but perhaps setting up a direct confrontation between Tsarukyan and Boers down the road. Others believe that the mention of Makachev's training camp was a reminder, while the spotlight often falls on dramatic personalities like Chimaev or fan-favorite brawlers. Islam's quiet dominance is still the benchmark. In this interpretation, Tsarukyan's comments weren't just informative, they were strategic, subtly positioning himself in the minds of fans and matchmakers alike as the man who understands both chaos and control. But what can't be overstated is the timing. With UFC 319 looming large and the upper echelons of the lightweight and welterweight divisions in a state of flux, these candid insights from Tsarukyan may have redefined the stakes. No longer is UFC 319 simply about Khamzat's comeback. It's now a broader chapter in a larger saga that includes Islam's legacy, Arman's rise, and the silent war camps that are being built in places the public isn't allowed to see. As the sport continues evolving with athletes like these redefining discipline, strategy, and narrative control, fans are left in a state of electrified anticipation. The octagon is no longer just a place where fights happen, it's where dynasties begin, where careers collide, and where quiet training camps explode into brutal poetry under the lights. Tsarukyan may not have intended to launch a media frenzy, but his choice to pull back the curtain, even slightly, has reshaped the conversation. And as the weeks build toward UFC 319, the fighters might remain silent, but the echoes of Tsarukyan's words will only grow louder.